Hello viewers, welcome to Technically Sound tutorial. Today we are going to set up Kubernetes cluster locally using Kind. This is one blog article for the same. We can follow this article to create the cluster. So let's jump to Visual Studio Code and start creating our cluster. This is the README for creating the cluster and kind of documentation I have created. I'll attach it with the video description. You can follow along. So, uh, what tools are there for creating Kubernetes cluster? Let's first see that what other tools are available there. Kind is surely one of the tools, and what other tools are available. For that, we have to go to the Kubernetes site itself. Yeah, Kubernetes doc task tools. So we have Kind, Minikube and Kubeadmin, three different tools for creating Kubernetes cluster. kubectl is a tool that is required for dealing with cluster, not for creating a cluster. This is just for dealing with cluster. So you have to install this kubectl on your machine, depending upon your operating system. Follow this documentation and install it first. Then you have to choose Kind because this is a Kind tutorial, and let's follow the documentation for Kind. And here it says Kind clusters run on top of Docker, so make sure you have Docker pre-installed and it is running before starting any Kind commands. So I have my Docker installed and running. There are no running containers right now, but we will see the Kind containers over here once I start the cluster. So let's install let's create the cluster. Kind create cluster is the command to create one cluster. So Kind create cluster. Let's wait for it to complete. Preparing nodes, writing configuration, starting control plane. By the way, control plane is the main node on a cluster. You can read that thing over here. Control plane is the main node that manages other nodes and the entire environment. There are worker nodes as well, and usually deployments happen on the worker nodes, hence it's the best practice to create few worker nodes on your Kubernetes cluster. So yeah, it's done. Control plane is done, networking system is done, storage class is done. So cluster is ready now. Let's see on Docker container. Kind control plane is running. So yeah, our Kubernetes cluster is ready. So let's verify the cluster. Kind get clusters. Clear the screen. Kind get clusters. So the USDRS, yeah. So it gives us Kind. That is, there is only one cluster named kind, and it's running. So can we have multiple clusters? Yeah, we can. Let's create one more. Create cluster. Error failed. Create cluster nodes already exists with the name Kind. because by default when we give the command kind create cluster, it creates a cluster with the name kind. Any further cluster we want to create, we have to give a name. So name is, let's say, kind 2. So yeah, it's creating. We will be able to see the same on the Docker itself once it's done. So yeah, kind 2 control plane. This is kind prefix is the name. This is kind 2 control plane. So both are running. Yeah, installing network systems, storage class, and done. Let's clear the grid. So verify the cluster, kind get cluster. Again, kind get clusters. We get two, yeah, kind and kind two. So the conclusion is we can have multiple clusters as well. So getting information about the cluster, get extra information other than this name. We have to run that command kubectl. Remember we have installed from the Docker side, sorry, from the Kubernetes side, that is kubectl tool. This tool we have to run that. So kubectl cluster info context kind. Let's try run this. 26 lines of text in the terminal. No, I just copied one line. Okay, let me type it. kubectl cluster info context kind. Yeah, we got the information. Kubernetes control plane is running. This is the IP address or the address where control plane is running. Code DNS is running at this. To further debug and diagnose cluster problems, use cluster info dump, kubectl cluster info dump. So this context kind, what it is? kubectl cluster info context. We have two clusters running. Here we want to just know about one of those cluster. So kind is the prefix as this tool decides, and this kind is the name of the cluster. Let's get the information about the second cluster kind 2. Yeah, so this is the address. See the difference in the IP address, port numbers. So two clusters are running. We got the information regarding the two. Let's delete one of those cluster. So kind delete cluster. If we hit this, it will delete the default cluster, that is kind. So let's hit, yeah, deleting cluster kind. So now get all the clusters. Only kind 2 exists right now. So delete cluster again. Will it delete the final and the last one? Yeah, it will delete. Let's see. Kind get clusters? No, it will not delete. It will always try to delete the default named cluster, that is kind, but any custom named cluster it will not delete. We have to specify the name with the delete command. Kind delete cluster dash dash name. we want to delete specifically kind 2. Just delete, yeah, deleting cluster kind 2 and it's done. Now let's get all the clusters. No kind clusters found. Yeah, it's clear now. Let's see the Docker. Yeah, it's clear. Only show running containers, nothing is running. So I hope you got the idea what is a Kubernetes cluster, how it helps us in production deployment, how to create Kubernetes cluster locally for testing purpose or for learning purpose, and yeah, see you next time where we will set up some static website on the Kubernetes cluster. So see you then. Bye bye.